Ballerina is directed by Wiseman, written by Shay, Hatten, and stars Ana de Armas, Anjelica Huston, Keanu Reeves, Norman Reedus, Lance Reddick, Ian McShane, and Gabriel Byrne. And this is the fifth film in the John Wick franchise and the first spin-off movie. And, this was a movie I wasn't sure how excited I was for. Obviously, there's been a lot of reports about the reshoots and the test screenings going badly, and Chad Stahelski having to come in and reshoot the movie, and so all that kind of warranted trepidation. And the last couple weeks, I decided that for this movie I wanted to watch the John Wick movies. So I rewatched 1 and 2, watched 3 and 4 for the first time, and fell in love with this franchise. So when I kind of reviewed that report that Chad Stahelski might have shot most of the movie, I actually got pretty excited, but I was still nervous. I was very happy to say and see that this movie is an absolutely worthy addition to the John Wick franchise, and I had such a great time with this, even if it has some flaws. The story here is very simple. We follow Eve McCarroll starting as a young girl, and we see her father and her mother have both been murdered by Gabriel Byrne and the cult that he runs. And from that point on, she goes on a journey to get revenge, and we see this manifested through Ana de Armas, and I think that's the best place to start here is her performance. She is amazing in this movie. She's absolutely a better actor than Keanu, but she kind of has that same kind of slightly stilted dialogue delivery where you can tell that this is a person who is super messed up and they're an incredible assassin, and so they don't really feel the need to talk a whole lot, and what they do have to say is not the most eloquent, and de Armas plays that so well. Beyond that, she is amazing in the action sequences. She carries herself so unbelievably well and is so believable as this person who has gone to John Wick school. And that brings me into probably the biggest strength of the movie beyond her, which is the action sequences, which are just so much fun. You can feel Stahelski's fingerprints all over these. They have that late-stage John Wick action pacing and intensity and kind of weird comedic spin. They're just so fun in this movie, and unlike the John Wick movies, we see Ana de Armas kill people with about 1,000 different things in this movie. There are guns, there are samurai swords, there are knives and hatchets, and knives taped to guns, and ice skating shoes, and a flamethrower, and grenades, all this stuff. She is killing people with all these things, and they're all a lot of fun to watch, and this thing is just full of great set pieces. Two that really stood out to me, though, were one in a gun shop and one in a restaurant in a snowy town that just had that real John Wick intensity. And, I knew that this was a worthy addition to the franchise because there were about a dozen moments, if not more, where I was going, ooh, or oh, or yo, or just laughing because of how awesome something was. And that's what I want from these movies, and I got that from this. And kind of similarly to some of the John Wick movies, specifically 2 and 3, the story is pretty damn thin. The story and the characters are pretty thin. That was probably the biggest issue with the movie, but again, it didn't really mess up my viewing because that's not what this movie's about. It's a 2-hour movie, and probably 80 minutes of it are dedicated to the action. But even if, the Gabriel Byrne villain motivation is kind of very generic, and, Ana de Armas's inciting incident is just like, oh, my father was murdered as a child, very classic action movie stuff. Even if that is so generic, it still worked for me because this thing is populated with great actors, just like all the John Wick movies. They have the person in the center, and they have all these great character actors to bounce off. Like I mentioned, you've got Gabriel Byrne as the villain, and the villain on paper is quite poor, but Gabriel Byrne is such a good actor that he still finds a way to bring something to it. You've also got returning characters, Anjelica Huston, Ian McShane, and Lance Reddick all come in and just do their thing. I did have a little laugh to myself because Ian McShane has this short little haircut in this movie, and it's not like his long flowing John Wick hair. It's a tiny bit distracting, but obviously no big deal. And also, of course, Keanu Reeves comes into the movie, and any time that you get to spend with the John Wick character is a treat. Here, while it was still awesome, the movie had me so locked in that when John Wick showed up, I was like, oh my god, John Wick's coming into this movie. I do think he feels a bit wedged in there. It kind of feels more like they called Keanu Reeves in to come shoot some scenes for this movie as opposed to the character John Wick being in the movie. But still, you get to see John Wick do his John Wick stuff, and that's amazing as it is. And he does have a scene fighting with Ana de Armas, and that's the thing I love about this movie is, and they address this in the movie, because she is a woman, she has a physical disadvantage against a lot of the men that she will have to fight. And so they do a great job of having her kind of getting her ass kicked at points. Obviously, John Wick was going to kick her ass no matter what, because he's John Wick, but specifically Ana de Armas's first big set piece in this nightclub, she's getting washed by these guys she's fighting. She obviously ends up coming out on top because she went to John Wick school, but she's taken a lot of hits. She's going down. And I think that's really what is kind of the difference maker with a movie like this, is that this is not an impenetrable hero, and especially because she is relatively new to this world. You know, it wouldn't make sense for her to just instantly be destroying everybody, but she does have that skill set because she went to John Wick school. So when she does start destroying everybody, it's great. This movie's just a ton of fun. There's like 8 set pieces throughout the movie, and this thing is constantly moving. It felt like a half hour shorter than it actually was. Yes, the story is very thin, but there's still something for me to grab onto because of their performances and how they kind of bring the world to life. There are a couple story beats that kind of annoyed me, but, you know, it is what it is. That doesn't ruin a movie like this for me. And in great John Wick fashion, there were a couple really solid little comedic beats. I could have even used a few more. There's one involving a pile of plates, and then one that uses the phrase, "Can I be frank?" in a really funny way. And yeah, you know, I just had a great time with this movie. I do kind of wonder what this movie looks like if Chad Stahelski directs the whole thing from the start, but still, what we got is awesome. There's so much fun to be had here, so many great kills. Ana de Armas really kills it as an action star, and this movie really sold me on the idea of John Wick spin-offs. You know, there's a kind of tendency to go, oh, come on, they're spinning off John Wick. But this movie really made its case and made it feel like it deserved to exist. And I would absolutely watch another movie about this character. Just a damn great time at the movies. You know, it's not perfect. It's not one of the best of this franchise, but it is absolutely a worthy addition. Great action, great performances, and great pacing. I would absolutely recommend seeing Ballerina in theaters. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye!